conquered all of Europe. We're never gonna stop. From Palestine to Turkey, we've won the fucking lot. But Paisley and the Shankly, the fields of Anfield gold. We are unsupported, and we come from Liverpool.
G'day everyone, welcome to the training ground. This is a pre-Brighton training ground. We want to see how Liverpool can beat Brighton. I'm here joined as always by Peter Kafinas. How you going, Pete?
Hey, Georgie, I'm all right, my friend. How are you?
Yeah, good. As you can see down the bottom, by the way, for everybody watching, whoever's come on now, this is actually a pre-recorded show. We did the last few live, but we've just got a lot of things to do this week in our normal lives, in our alter ego
life has
lives.
begun.
Yeah, so as Peter Parker and Bruce Wayne, I'm not sure what hero you like to be there, Pete. Who's your superhero of choice?
Honestly, it's the Joker.
The joke. Oh, well, then he doesn't have an alter ego, does he? Well, anyway, maybe him without makeup, and then me as Peter Parker. Our alter ego lives. We have a lot on, so we have to pre-record these types of shows. But today is a pre-Brighton. So how do we beat them? What sort of things can we expect from them? And the way that we usually set these shows out, for those of you who haven't watched this before, we usually just go into a what we know style of play about the team we're versing. We then analyze how they're going to attack us. And then we analyze how we can then attack them. So in terms of how they attack us, we look at ways in which they've scored goals and how we can stop that. And then ways in which we can hurt them. We look at ways in which Brighton, for example, have conceded goals and where their weaknesses are, and to see if Liverpool have the weapons to punish those sorts of weaknesses. But without further ado, let's go into something that we always start with, which is a little bit of a what we know style of play kind of thing. Pete, why don't we bring up the tactics board, and we can see from there kind of at least a formation that Brighton will be playing with, because at least it shows where Liverpool are going to find spaces, or where maybe Brighton are going to find spaces against us.
Well, you say formations, George, but they've actually played 5 this year so far. So out of all the ones that they've played, they've used 3-5-2 the most. Just recently against Manchester City, he opted to a 5-4-1. Against Arsenal, against Everton, he was 3-5-2. But yeah, again, so out of the 5 he's used this year, 3-5-2 has been his original kind of the one he uses the most. And so we've just gone with the numbers. The numbers say that he's used 3-5-2 the most, so we've gone with 3-5-2. And yeah, I mean, he plays he's a little bit different. Sometimes people play the 3-5-2 with like 2 holders and the 1 attacker, but he plays he's actually very similar to Brentford, who have a kind of like a flat midfield 3.
And it's interesting because against Man City, at least the way that they presented it on the screen, but also the ways in which they were finding little pockets of space against Manchester City, I think it's Moder that plays a little bit further forward. They're actually playing like a 3-4-2-1. And Trossard he's a winger attacking midfielder that kind of plays up front. So automatically he's going to be picking up the ball in those little pockets between Van Dijk and Robertson. But on the other side, there is a possibility that they could have another forward joining, maybe not a forward, but attacking midfielder joining up. We know Pascal Gross is quite good. A couple of years ago, he was known for scoring goals and whatnot, but it could be Moder. He's been playing furthest forward. That's the number 15 there for everybody looking at the tactics board there. So yeah, they can also try and find pockets a little bit further forward and commit one of those midfielders further forward. But yeah, in terms of the way that they kind of play, Pete, it's with 3-5-2. Is there anything distinctive about the way that they play? Because I might also bring forward some stats that I think you guys might find interesting.
Well, yeah, they particularly love wing play, so they really love to create overloads out wide. So they like to get triangles, or even like sometimes a diamond kind of shape in the wide areas. That's why the new signing here on the left, number 3. From Spain has actually been a really, really, really good signing for them in terms of helping the way they play. So what they'll do, they'll try and move the ball to one side, get numbers around the ball, try to get something, and then a late run from the opposite side. But it's basically wing play to get that ball back central. So drag us across and then get something back into the middle where I saw Trossard score a couple of weeks ago. I think it was against Leicester. He scores something, a goal like that anyway. So they go wide, then come back into the middle, then they score.
Well, it's really interesting that you say that, because I'm just very quickly going to bring up the average positions here against Manchester City. We kind of look at the City game because they're going to prepare the same way against us as City. I think we're a little bit more dynamic than City in our movement, a little bit in our dynamism. I mean, literally using the same word there. So I don't think it'll be too different. They might have some little plugs that they may want to fill up because of the fact that we may have a little bit more energy. We might be a little bit more rock and roll, whereas Pep is a little bit more, I don't know, a bit more measured in that, classical measured. But this is that play here. What is it? Cucurella. He's very interesting. He's a left back. Now, I'm not sure who they play at right wing back, because that's the thing. When they went to a 4 at the back, they were playing this bloke here, Veltman. They play him sometimes right back, but they also play is at he's going to be here actually. If we go number 2, Lamptey usually comes on at fullback as well. But it's kind of the same thing that we're seeing with a lot of these 5 at the backs, Pete, where Sergi Canos, for example, was the winger in the 5-man defense, and then you've got a traditional fullback on the other side. In this one, it seems like this guy here, Cucurella, sounds like a dance. Mark Cucurella. He even though he is the more defensive, you can see his heat map. He's really involved. They really do look to him for playmaking. It's actually from exactly what you're talking about, the whole idea of shifting the ball wide and then coming in. So they go all the way wide just to come inside. And just to use some of the stats, by the way, Brighton are one of the, in terms of aerial duels, Liverpool are right up there in terms of aerial duels won and, attacking plays coming from, or at least defending attacking plays from within the air. Brighton are one of the worst, actually. Very strange, because they've been effective at set pieces. So just like you said there, they're going to move the ball wide. It doesn't mean they're going to be crossing it and trying to score a header. I think against Van Dijk, Konate, Matip, whoever it is we choose, if it's at least Matip or Konate and Van Dijk, they're going to have zero chance of getting a header. So it's like you said, they're going to get the ball. They're going to get the ball wide, and then they're going to try and come back in and see if they can find a little, maybe like an angle to find a ball through. Again, looking at these 2 little areas here that I was talking about with those 2 attacking midfield. Well, that's who's that? That's March, but that's Trossard there, who's like one of those attacking style forwards that is not necessarily the striker. And then that's that Moder guy as well. So, they're going to look to be passing rather than crossing. I don't know if that's fair to say.
It is, but just a quick one on Cucurella. I don't know if you remember during the Olympics, George. He actually played against Australia and was exceptional during the whole Olympics. Actually, he was exceptional. I remember watching the game, the whole Olympics, thinking he's actually not too bad. This little Carlos Puyol wannabe, because he's got that little that frizzy hair, and literally three weeks later he signs at Brighton. So I was like, okay, there you go. So he's he is an exciting player to watch, and I mean, our right side against Manchester United was so much better defensively. I mean, whether that's because they were that bad or Konate is this, massive change in terms of defensive issues down that right side that we've been having. I think we don't know, but look, if it's Matip or Van Dijk, I'm sure both are up to the task. But I mean, I'd love to see Konate start, to be fair, just to try and deal with that kind of overload down there.
There's another really interesting stat here, by the way, in terms of, and this is cool, this really cool website, and I wish I had it ready so I could show you the actual stats, but I actually wrote them down, so they're just messy writing, so I won't show that on the screen. But this was an interesting stat. Successful tackles leading to a successful turnover in possession, which means it's not just a tackle where the ball bounces out and it doesn't lead to much. The team the team basically has to win the ball back and then get it under their control and use it in an effective way. Brighton are right at the top of the Premier League with 114 successful tackle turnovers. Liverpool, I'm not sure where they are, kind of mid-table to above mid-table with 81. It's a really another interesting stat there. I think what I'm finding with a lot of these, and the fact that Brighton have gone through this really weird patch where they haven't had a win in a while, this is a big call from me here. I feel like they're overperforming. And I haven't looked at their XG, the fucking thing I probably should have looked at. It seems like, because, I don't know, I looked at a few of the goals that they score as well. It's yeah, it feels a little bit like they might be overperforming, and now they're just kind
So
of finding. Yeah, go on.
Brighton's expected goals for this season is 1.44. The opponents are 1.23.
Their expected goals are 1.44, and how many have they actually scored? Is there like a?
Yeah, I don't know that one actually, but that one
I'll have a look at that.
definitely.
But
Yeah.
but there you go. I mean, they're not really going to score, or they're going to maybe score one, and they're maybe going to concede one. But you were saying they concede very few chances. But the last really interesting stat that I wanted to bring up, I don't know. I just found these really, I don't know. I found the successful tackles thing. They're top of the list there. So why this plays into this whole idea of them overperforming? Not to say that they're crap and they don't deserve this, but if the team is not banging down the door and they're not overly exciting in front of goal, then there must be something else going on. And with Brighton, for me, it's something like, the way that they must be set up. They must support each other. So when they do tackle, they win the ball back together or something like that. It feels like that they're more than the sum of their parts. I think that's what I'm trying to say.
Well, I think they've scored 9 goals in the Premier League. And how many games have we had? How many rounds? 8?
That's 7, yeah, 7 or 8. So it's like a goal a game. Yeah, it's pretty much on point, right?
So they are doing what they're meant to be doing.
Yeah. So you know what? In that sense, it's not like they're scoring more or they're scoring. They're kind of where they're supposed to be, but they're 5th in the league. I mean, what is that? You say they've scored 9 goals,
something like that. Yeah,
and they're
there or thereabouts, 9, 10. Yeah.
Yeah, and then I mean, at the moment at where we're speaking, they're 5th in the league. So it's kind of they seem to be very shy in terms of their approach, let's just say, but they're performing outstandingly.
Well, they're not 5th because of their goal scoring. They're actually 5th because of the amount they're not conceding. So I think they're 4th in the Premier League in terms of goals conceded. So
so hold on,
least amount of goals have got.
9 goals scored, 9 goals against. It's literally 1 for 1, and there's 9 games played. So they're really just neutral. And so the ways in which they make up, and there's another really interesting stat that I'm going to put up on the screen, again, playing into this idea that they're finding ways to win. I don't think like Liverpool are winning games. Manchester City are winning games. I think Brighton are finding ways to win games. This is another this is going to be very long to read on the bottom there, so I'm going to read it out to you. But they have the second most yellow cards in the Premier League, 23 yellow cards. In comparison, Liverpool are last in the Premier League for yellow cards. Jurgen Klopp's teams, always really, really nice and wholesome. But they have the same amount of fouls. So again, it's the idea of, it's not like they're going out there fouling left, right, and center, and that's their style of play. It gives you an idea that they're not committing loads of fouls, but the fouls they are committing, either they're tactical fouls, which again plays into this idea of them trying to find yards, trying to find little advantages in the game that maybe can make up for a player or two, or for a yard of pace that maybe they don't have. Or it suggests that when they do go in, they go in real hard. I don't know the nature of these yellow cards. I haven't looked that up, but that's pretty interesting. Same fouls. What's that? Triple? What is that? Yeah, no. Like almost triple the yellow cards that Liverpool have. I found that really interesting. But anyway, going off what we know about Brighton, we've kind of given you an idea of what they are going to be like approaching the game. We want to have a look at how maybe they're going to score against us. So what I might do, Pete, is I might get up maybe something with regards to their attack. Is that something that you might want to see right now?
Yes, please. Yeah, so here's the triangles or the diamonds and all the kind of any pattern they try to create in a wide area. So again, person on the ball, you got the fullback nice and wide. Then you got midfielder, you got a striker coming across to actually support and create that diamond. And then you've got 2 players on the edge of the box that they'll probably try to bring it back in round, and you've got a midfielder kind of protecting that middle zone there. So that's one example again of a perfect example really of when they go wide, what they try to do with the numbers, they try to get across. And this is actually, it's funny because their style of attack is also the way they defend. So this picture here, because they've got so many numbers around the ball and they're actually bringing everybody kind of like coming across over, it also makes them successful whilst they're defending. So when they lose the ball here, they've still got numbers. They've got so many numbers around the ball and they're aggressive. You just mentioned the yellow cards. They're a very aggressive team. So in transition, when they're defending, they're very aggressive. They press quite hard, quite fast. But we're going to show something a bit later on about their back three. Their back three do something really well, I'm not going to call it unique, but it's kind of like you can definitely tell there's a plan with the back three whilst they're in attack. But so it's kind of like 2-in-1 with this picture. That picture there in their attack is also why they're so good in defense. And this ball here is, you mentioned Modet earlier.
Yes.
I think he's the one that's circled, right? I'm pretty sure. I literally did this half an hour ago and I've gone blank. But I'm pretty sure
that is him. It's number 15. That is him.
Well, he scores from here. So he scores. So what happens here? They're in a transition moment. This is against Leicester, I believe. And so you can tell the player on the ball. He's run that far from deep and bypassed every single person. And he ends up getting on the end of the ball just over halfway. And next thing, because it went behind the back line and he's 1-on-1 and he scores. So again, one thing they do like to do, because that comes wide. So he starts to angle his run a bit more towards the left side, go wide. And next thing you know, he's on 1-on-1. And that's from runner from midfield, which we know is our Achilles heel this year.
Well, the last thing that we do have here, I'm not sure if you want to have a look at, is it their press? Is that another way that is perhaps they can utilize their attack? Is that something that you wanted to have a look at now?
You can bring the picture up. Yeah, bring the picture up.
Okay, well, this is them pressing as well.
Well, they score from this. Again, Watford before, Ranieri came in and decided to turn them into Barcelona versus Everton. But they score from this press. So they've gone man for man in this area there. The ball comes central to the person in the middle of those three players of Watford, and they pinch it and then they score. So again, they're very front foot. Even though they're known for their defensive qualities, they're not one of those ones who will sit back and try with a block and all that kind of stuff. They're quite aggressive and in your face. They want to win the ball high. So again, here's a great example of them winning the ball nice and high, and they actually score from this.
So you mentioned that example, and I'm gonna ruin your internet here, Pete. And I want to get access to your to the training ground here just for a second, the actual training ground, the tactics board that we use week in, week out. When we look at their main threats, ways in which we can stop that, the first thing that I would have probably said about ways in which we can stop them is looking at those aerial duel stats. Liverpool are one of the best in the Premier League in terms of winning aerial duels, and that's thanks to Van Dijk, Matip, and then Konate, just recently playing against Manchester United. But at the same time as recognizing that, I think we can safely say that we're probably not going to have a fight against Brighton that is going to be in the air. I'm not sure what you've seen, Pete. By the way, I don't know if you want to confirm that. Have we kind of had have they had an instance where they've attacked a team aerially yet in their 9 games with 9 goals, 9 conceded?
No, but they do. They've got like the set piece wise, they've got ideas and they have set plays in their set pieces. But in actual gameplay, no, they're not really go forward kind of team in the air. That is. Yeah.
Well, that's the thing. With our aerial dominance, I don't think we necessarily... Matip is really good in the air, but we know Konate is also a beast in the air. I would have actually not been averse to Joe Gomez playing this game because maybe someone with a little bit more, fleet of foot, a little bit lighter on their heels. But we saw Konate kind of get a little bit turned by Ronaldo. I think that goal that never was is the best thing to happen to Konate because I think Klopp shows him that video, by the way, over and over and over again of him getting done by a 36-year-old. By the way, Cristiano Ronaldo is one of the best players in the world. So he's gonna fool someone sooner or later. But this is the idea I'm talking about here with these. Sometimes this tends to happen. And when we talk about their threats and stopping them, I just think that these areas that we've kind of had issues with in the past, by the way, is it going to let me do something? Yeah. So just these little 2 areas where they begin to run into the box in those, just between the fullback and the center half. If we've got, Van Dijk can read that early on. If Konate has the recovery pace to kind of deal with that, then I have a feeling that any threats that they do have, hopefully on the floor, like you said, they like to play it wide, but they don't like to cross it in. They like to work it and then maybe get like an extra man from midfield making a run in. That's been Liverpool's Achilles heel. If we want to prevent that from happening, I think, not only is it something that has to be done on the field, but maybe how we physically choose the lineup might actually help us. Maybe the pace of Konate over Matip might be a thing that'll help us in this game, considering Brighton like to play on the floor a little bit.
Yeah. Well, I'll get up something I've done for us now.
Hmm.
So this is just an example of their wide play. So when it's in field, for example, I'll go there left because that's predominantly where they go. When the ball comes anywhere here and he picks up the ball in this area, you'll get Mopo will come across to try and get one of these guys to move. Then what will happen here is Modere will try and come in centrally there and try to find maybe that little pocket. You've got a little triangle there, and then whether it's Trossard who comes across and completes that diamond there, like as we saw in that last picture that we showed, and then these will come in from here, right? So that will look something like that there. So again, lots of bodies forward, lots of bodies around the ball, and they're trying to. So obviously Trent has to commit here. Kanate come across here. Now here is where we're gonna have to be a little bit better. That which we've kind of struggled with this year in terms of this kind of late run from midfield, or this guy who kind of goes in between, as you saw Griezmann do against Atletico Madrid. He literally just comes in between these two here and scores. And because we can't have Van Dijk worrying about 1 and 2, Fabinho has to, or whoever plays there, we'll talk about it obviously at the end of the show in terms of starting 11s, but they've got to be better. Even if he just comes in here and Van Dijk has to worry about on the other side, and obviously Robbo comes on in. It's something that we have to do better in this game because that's these guys' philosophy. They'll come this way here. They'll try to get the bodies around and try to work something where they can get either it's a 1-2 between these two. So maybe if it comes to Mope, Trossard kind of runs in between, feeds it across, and then late run from here, bang. They're quite technically good in terms of on the ball. And they're quite comfortable in possession. So they've, like I said, that's their main threat and that's their main styles we said earlier. Now, if you want to talk about how do we stop that? Easy. All right, so I've got a board for us in terms of not stop that, but hurt them. It's our famous way of scoring. It's our counterattack. So we draw that picture up again. It's this thing here, George, that we speak about almost every week, and at the moment it's been happening almost every week, but it's here, right? So their strength is the fact they've got numbers around the ball. So let's say Trent pinches it. He's already got 3 players on his ass. Or, if Henderson wins the ball here, there's 2 players near Henderson. If Kanate gets the ball, there's 2-3 players. So the picture's clear. They've got a lot of bodies around the ball when they lose it. That's why they're defensively so they've been so strong at the moment. But with the 3 at the back, if you have a look, every player is kind of picked up. You've got Fabinho can go to Trossard or Gross. He can go. Henderson can come in here. It doesn't matter. Firmino will obviously come in and do the most unbelievable work, as everybody knows, which I know you want to mention it. Lallana is their holder. Please don't tell me we can't run rings around him.
I know. I was going to say that when we looked at their starting lineup, I mean, because Basuma's obviously got these issues around him, they've actually played Lallana as their deepest lying midfielder. My goodness, what an opportunity for someone like a Bobby or I don't know if Jota can do that, but just sit there and just make his life a living hell.
Oh my! But again, it's this. So with the 3 at the back, it kind of suits us because what you can do with Mane won't have to come back now because there's no winger, no fullback overlapping. Robbo's got it sorted. It's all number-wise. It's very safe. So what we need to do with Mane or whoever's going to play there, because we don't know with Klopp sometimes, But let's say it's Mane, which more likely is going to be Mane. He can just cheat on the further centre-back because if we do win it here, then we're talking about counter-attack style because Manchester City scored 2 nice counter-attacks against them, which we can get some screenshots up in a second. Gray for Everton scores one of the most easiest goals in his life through a counter-attack on the opposite side. So because everybody commits to one side, their weakness is literally, I'll just copy you, George. I'm going to do exactly what you did. But because all the balls are on one side, their weakness is literally the opposite.
Well, this is the photo. If you're going to look at the screen now, this is the photo that you're kind of talking about, them in defense. I'm not sure if this is an example of not transition, but they're getting countered against. And these are their 3 centre-backs. This was the phenomenon you were talking about, and now we're talking about, we started off with a style of play, then we kind of went into how do they score, and it kind of merges into how can we score against them, because the main way they haven't conceded many goals, 9, but the goals that they concede usually it's going to be some sort of counterattack, again, it must be a tactical fouls thing. I think SofaScore might even have a description of when a yellow card is given out, what it's for, if it says professional foul, tactical foul, or whatever. But the fact that they've got so few fouls committed and so many yellow cards, maybe it's because they're preventing instances like the one that you're seeing in the screenshot. Is that an example of them kind of, it's backs to the wall. They've kind of been found out. They're being counted against, and then their three centre backs just compress in.
Well, that's as I said earlier in the show, that what they do with their back three, it's literally they will stay together. So against Chelsea,
They're all holding
a little
string.
bit different. Yeah, well, with Chelsea with their back three is a little bit different. It's like like an inverted triangle or somewhat. Or everyone does a little bit with theirs. They don't kind of like if they slide across, they literally slide as the three of them. If they're going to the middle, it's the three of them. They're quite like as you just mentioned, like on the string. And this is a moment here where obviously look at the space for this is against Manchester City, right? Look, the spaces in the wider areas, like as if that's I think Grealish gets in his pockets in that moment there. But if Mane in that situation is absolutely deadly, or even Robbo, by the way. So if you want to get up the other two screenshots of attacking them, you'll see almost the exact same picture.
So this is the first one attacking them.
Yeah. So again, look at their numbers around the ball. They've just lost the ball there. Look where all the numbers are.
Oh, this is the goal,
Literally.
actually. I think is this not a goal?
This is the goal.
Here?
Yeah, it is the goal.
This is Cucurella's. That's Cucurella here. Actually, I can do my special little my special thing that I do here.
Yeah.
So what happens here? Cucurella here lost the ball. He gave it there, and it gets lost and gets played straight away to here. And that's is that Grealish that's on it?
No. So Grealish is the person on the closest to the end of our screen.
Oh, Grealish. He gets played in, and that's actually Bernardo Silva. That's Bernardo Silva.
But Grealish scores. You see what I mean? Like and look where side of the pitch is on. I literally showed you that the wing play but why they're so good as well with all the numbers, and you could just see the picture there. There's 6-7 players literally on one side, and then City score from the opposite side. And even if you get up the other screenshot of Demarai Gray, it's the same outcome. And this is another one. This is one from Manchester City. Yep, no, this is fine though because they score from that again. So City score from this. And now not straight away, but it's Jesus ends up scoring after it comes back out again. But it goes to Grealish in that space there. Yeah. So again, that's the picture exactly what I'm trying to mention. Again,
by the way, is it not Foden that scores, not Grealish?
No. Yeah, but Grealish is the one who actually does the damage in the space. Yes. But it's again, look at their bodies around the ball, and then in transition, George is again
the one.
Look at their back three, just literally on a string, and the ball comes on the opposite side. Demarai Gray into the pocket, and Demarai Gray scores one of the easiest goals he's ever scored. So, how do we hurt them? Going back to your question, that's my opinion. How we hurt them? It's once the ball is won,
it's a counter.
But go the opposite side. So it's got to go as quickly as we can down the other side.
Well, the other thing is, by the way, is what Bernardo Silva did in that example, if we do go back to that one. So what happens is, if I'm not mistaken, what happens is Bernardo Silva here gives the ball to Grealish, and then Grealish cuts it across, and then Foden scores with his left foot. And that's what I love about Grealish, by the way, far out. Just in comparison to Neco Williams, we've got this in our squad where there's a 2-on-1. Have we ever scored a 2-on-1, Pete, with Liverpool? We never seem to pass to the guy in the middle. My God, for the Preston game, Neco Williams is 2-on-1. He doesn't pass to poor Taki, and Taki's like, "Bro, I need goals to games ratios. Do you understand? This is how I get into the side."
Funny stat: Takumi Minamino is the only player on more. He's on a goal every 59 minutes. Salah's on a goal on 70 minutes, or whatever it is. So
he's like the only player that is outscoring Salah per minutes. he's just doing it in games that don't matter as much. But the thing is, what happens? What Bernardo Silva has an absolute field day with in this game, especially in a counter like this, is he gets through a few tackles, and it's that breaking. It's that breaking from midfield. It's either Bernardo Silva, looks like Bernardo Silva, or it's Foden. But just that idea of someone who is either an attacker who can come deep. And the thing is, as good as Bobby is at coming deep, we saw him on the edge of the box doing a few tricky things against Manchester United. And by the way, going back to Manchester United, 3 on the string, Man United would not have 3 on the string. They got scissors, cut the string, and they all went walkabout. So a complete opposite. So it was not the best training session for this Brighton game, but at the same time, Brighton liked to keep just as narrow as what Manchester United were trying to do. So maybe Liverpool, especially with that Naby Keita style run from midfield, where it ends up being 4 against 3, we might have some joy. But going back to this example I'm using with Bernardo Silva, it's just that midfielder. That's a Curtis Jones just there. We didn't
I was
see.
going to say, yeah.
We haven't seen him get the chance because Curtis Jones is not there. He's about here if he's playing on the right, or he's over here if he's playing on the left. He doesn't find himself in that position very often. Naby Keita tends to find himself in that position. You're going to hate me for mentioning it. Oxlade-Chamberlain can, but Chamberlain's no good in that situation. Chamberlain's better closer to the goal. But this, you know who this player would have been, by the way, for us? That would have been Harvey Elliott just there. That would have been Harvey Elliott. That would have been really, really cool. But a breaking midfielder here that's just able to take one or two players out. Because like you said, there's this big press here, and we're talking about how we're going to score against them. You mentioned that first idea, which is break on the opposite side if we're going to counter against them. So we're not talking about just the way to score goals against Brighton is just countering. It's the style of counter. The second thing is we need to get those 1-2 touches away from that pressing midfield, and we need to have them eating dust, essentially. So I don't know, for you, if I was to ask you who the best player is in our squad to do that, especially on the right-hand side of that midfield, maybe even the left-hand side of it, it'd be safe to say it's either Curtis Jones or perhaps someone else. I'm not sure if there's anyone else.
Well, if we're going to conclude the show in terms of predicted lineups and stuff, if that's where you're heading with this, it's well, we don't know what Naby Keita's doing. Like, they haven't really mentioned, and again, because we do our shows earlier than the conferences and all that stuff that come out, George. You know, we're kind of we have to die on the hill here with our words. So we're assuming that Naby Keita is not ready for this weekend, and we're assuming obviously that Thiago is not obviously going off what Pep, the real Pep, said in his last press conference.
Yeah, Pep Linders.
The real Pep. Everyone knows him as the real Pep. So we've gone with our midfield three of hopefully that, again, Fabinho, we're assuming he's ready. So we're going with the midfield three of Fabinho, Henderson, and Jones. That's just assuming Keita is out and Fabinho's back.
But that's the thing. If Fabinho's out, then Henderson goes in deep. I think Keita might be available because I think Klopp was saying he saw him after the game, and it's, you know,
but
I think
Klopp says a lot of things like that, like Thiago will be back soon, and Thiago's still fucking.
Yeah, but this is different. I know I can almost analyze the style of Klopp. Like he loves also going, because he likes making a big deal of an injury. So he would have loved to sit there and say, Naby, not in a good way, horrible challenge, don't want to see this kind of thing. Like, it's almost like because Manchester United are the team that they are, Klopp doesn't want to make an example of them because he knows it's just a one-off thing that they do. He's more upset at the lower teams that week in, week out go studs up on the big teams to try and injure them to give them the best chance of winning those, you know, getting the scalp of the big six, big four, big three, whoever it is. So I think I am reading between the lines here. I think Klopp is more happy with what he saw from Keita, so there is a chance he could start. But either way, my point being with all that, if someone here is fit or not fit, what you do want is, if Jones is here, Jones is going to be that player that can go 1-2, you know, shift the ball from his left foot to his right foot and get out of danger. And then we're on counter-attack mode. Naby Keita hopefully can do that, but also Keita's not necessarily the player to make that run through as in burst with possession, although he loved doing that when he was in the German league. That would be his bread and butter in this game, by the way, bursting through one or two challenges and finding himself with absolute grass in front of him. And he's had a field day playing with Mo Salah, as anyone does on that right-hand side. I don't know if I'm repeating myself here on air or if I've just repeated myself from off air, Pete. I think I said this to you off air. People who play in right center mid absolutely have a field day with Mo Salah and Trent. They absolutely love it. Harvey Elliott was having a field day. Naby Keita on the left-hand side was kind of like, Now on the right-hand side, goal, assist, you know, scored that volley before.
Yeah.
So that right-hand side...
You talk about the two best players in the world in their positions, Trent and Salah. So, yeah, why not?
Exactly. So, look, whatever it is, I think there's a player here in this midfield three that can break through that initial press. We have to watch out for the cynical yellows, I would say. Maybe even try and goad them into those cynical yellows early, and then they can be a little bit more tentative in their challenges. Again, this is the team that loves to tackle and get the ball back straight away. You know what I mean? So, you know, it's getting past that initial press and getting into that counterattack. And then, Pete, we do the thing that I was talking about with Manchester City, and it ended up happening. It's going to be difficult for me now to get control of your thing. I just wanted to protect your internet usage. But if I can ask you for control over the tactics board once more, if that's possible. When you look at those three that they're on a string, if they're going to come in deep, come in together, very, very close, the thing that you would want to do, as kind of what we were doing before, is what we did against Manchester City, is if they're all going to be really close together like this, if you can see on the camera, we want to be doing those diagonal runs between our front three. We want Salah going left. We want Salah coming in. We want Mane or Jota going far right. We want that crisscross, especially with a back three that loves to hold each other's hands as if they're in kindergarten. What we need from the front three is we need one coming deep. Against United, that was Salah. We need one running acrossways. Against Manchester City, that was Sadio Mane. And that's the way that you can cut across three centre-backs that are so diligent and so composed and follow each other so effectively in defence.
I'm just trying to I'm just going to animate it while you were talking. I was just animating that.
Yeah, I couldn't get onto the thing, but I'm going to do it now.
I was animating it for you.
Good. Yeah, good. Well, if it's been animated, then that's all that we care about.
So look again. So let's pretend for 2 seconds before we move into the back four, because I'm sure that's what I think everyone's excited to see. What we think of what's happening there. But that's okay. So if Fabinho's out, let's say we don't know what's happening with him. Clearly, Henderson just goes back there. So then it might end up being a Jones and Keita midfield three. Then would you say that's fair or?
If Henderson goes back there, it'll be Keita and Jones. I think Oxlade-Chamberlain has he possibly could be a player that we could rely on in this game. But if Fabinho's fit, then it'd be Jones and Henderson. But yeah, it could be Keita and Jones in there.
So that's just assuming, because before people, have a panic attack and abuse us online, this is only in case Fabinho is not ready. Yes?
Yes.
Okay, just checking. All right, let's go into the back four. Georgie, what do you reckon?
Well, I think we kind of come into predictions and coming up to the last kind of segments of what we think about this game. We kind of gave you an idea. The front three kind of always picks itself. I mean, Jota doesn't play against Preston, doesn't come on at all, if I'm not mistaken. No. It could be Firmino or Jota, but we're expecting Mane to come back.
It's got to be Bobby.
He stormed off the field, by the way, with Manchester United. I think he wasn't happy at not coming on with enough time there. But Salah on the right. Midfield, we just talked about. But the back, it seems like we're going with Trent and Robbo. Tsimikas obviously played 90 minutes against Preston. Van Dijk has to come back on at left centre-back. And then we're going with Konate right centre-back. Just because of that, this team likes to play on the pitch, on the floor a little bit more. Maybe that recovery pace from Konate might be useful. However, having said that, Pete, Matip is pretty good when he stands his ground. He's pretty good at the standing tackle and coming out with the ball at his feet. It doesn't bounce off him, ricochet off him. We did see Konate committing himself to the ground and the ball ricocheting off one of his sliding legs. And that ended up being Manchester United's only big chance of the game, which was the Bruno Fernandes Skyward, Rosed shot.
Yeah, correct.
But I wouldn't be against Matip starting here. I actually expect him to start, but I'd like to see Konate.
Okay, look, I'll give you my reason why I like Konate to start. And again, I don't care who starts, whether it's Gomez, Matip, Konate, because they're all top quality. They're all started any team, to be honest with you. But I'm going with Konate purely because we signed this player to be Van Dijk 2.0 when Van Dijk's time has come at this club. So this person is not going to just be 24 years old one day and go, okay, now it's your turn. Mm-hmm. Like he's got to get the games in. And Matip, look, 100%. Matip, look, we know Matip, you can throw him in after 10 games and he'll do Matip stuff. Like he'll be unbelievable in possession, good in the air, and lead. I've got no issues. But with Konate, especially after manhandling Fred, Bruno, literally manhandling both of them, and a clean sheet against our biggest rivals, a top performance in possession, didn't look rattled at all. I think we spent the big money on this player. Play him. Like after that, especially because that's one thing I don't like that Klopp does. After someone has a massive game or then a good run of form, it's okay. Let's go back to the old faithful. We're seeing it with Tsimikas, and yet he's the only player. He's the leading
470 minutes, not conceded a goal.
Yeah,
straight.
But we've seen that with him, right? And even a Robbo, as as much as we all think he's the best left back in the world, he hasn't been at his his exhilarating form as we've known in the past. But again, he's doing his job. Big deal. We're first. Oh, we're not first, but we're unbeaten. But like it's something with Konate that I just love to reward him with another game. And what better game to test him against a team that is? Look, you say they've only conceded 9, but 4 was in one game, George. So you take out that City game. It's going to be a hard game.
You're right. Actually, you're right. You're right. Half of their goals come in one game, essentially. The other thing is that regardless of whether it's Konate or Matip, but we just talked about this before, we need a player to step out of 2 or 3 challenges and try and beat that mid to high press that their whole midfield is going to try and do. The press, by the way, that does leave their back 3 exposed. And by the way, Adam Lallana, who's going to, I can't believe that they're playing with him at the base of midfield. We should be targeting him. I think if Oxlade-Chamberlain, by the way, gets any sort of look in this game, I tell you what, that's the easiest play he's going to have in terms of running at them and trying to find a yard of space for a shot. This is his own. If he comes on, this is his chance. He should really take it.
Just hit me.
Having said that. Sorry?
No, keep going, because you know how we've normally come up with ideas whilst we're talking. So you finish yours, and it just something just hit me there, and that's all you keep going.
The first thing is with the centre back selection, whether it's Konate or Matip. I think if it's Konate, when they have that mid to high press, he can 1-2 step go through, and he can be the midfield player that has burst through that early press. So it can be Konate. We've seen him do it before. We also saw from Konate, by the way, when he goes 1-2, he actually plays a defense splitting pass, which is very interesting. Matip goes 1-2, then goes 3-4, and then gives it off to somebody, or he keeps running. So whether it's
turns
Konate
into Messi.
and turns into Messi. So whether it's Konate or whether Matip starts, I can also see Matip doing a similar run where he can break through 1 or 2 challenges. Because by the way, they're going to be flying in trying to get that cynical yellow card. If they can bounce off Matip or Konate, then they've committed way too many players to trying to win the ball back. And then Liverpool find themselves hopefully 3 or 4 on 3. You're going to have not only our front 3, but maybe Curtis Jones also joining that. That's our front 4 attacking the 3 that they have on the string.
Yeah, and I was just thinking before, we said they're in a bit of bad form at the moment.
Yeah.
They haven't won in the last 4 or 5 games.
Yes.
That's been since Lallana's been at the base. Because
Bissouma had his little issues.
Because Bissouma's missing for whatever reason. But it's just like when you mentioned it earlier, I was like, oh wow, like, that's true. They've been crap since he's been at the base, because that's nothing against Lallana. It's just not his, it's not his thing. But it's that's actually something interesting, and hopefully that we can capitalize on.
Yeah, and the thing is that when you want someone to play on a world-class and a defensive mid, you want it to be Bobby Firmino, because he's going to make a meal of them. Now, this is the thing. If they're world-class, Bobby can make a meal of them. If they're not world-class, I don't think you necessarily need Bobby. That's why if we have Bobby in this game, I think he'll make a meal of someone like Lallana and run circles around him and create space for Jones to make that run. If you can see on the tactics board there, make that run beyond that line. The run that the only midfielder that makes that run, by the way, is James Milner. So copy. But also on the other side, the one that that Naby Keita actually made for the Manchester United goal. But if Bobby is not the one doing that, then Jota, who is Bobby like light, he doesn't have to be as good as Bobby to make a meal of Lallana. So we can see either one of those two starting and actually probably having a little bit of joy around that base of the Brighton midfield and maybe capitalizing on Lallana. And by the way, they know how he plays. They know where he's going to Cruyff turn. So maybe they should be nicking the ball off him.
Put Allison on him. Have a Cruyff turn competition.
Having said that, let's just go into a final score prediction. What do you think the score is going to be as we wrap up the show?
You know how much I hate doing these, yeah?
Yeah, well, you think we're going to win? Just that'll be enough.
Yeah, we'll win. We'll win.
We'll win with clean sheet? 2-0. Okay, let's go 2-0. I'm going to go 3-0. I'm going 3-0. 3-0,
I hope
3-0.
so. Yeah.
3-0, 3-0. By the way, guys, this is, of course, a pre-recorded show. That's why I put that little banner down the bottom again for you guys. Give the show some love. We did it live a few weeks, and we would love to do it live a lot more often, but obviously our schedules can't allow it. So please, give the video a like, give the channel a subscribe if you haven't already. And Liverpool have had an incredible week. Let's just hope that we can continue it on against teams like Brighton, because these are usually our Achilles heel. But Liverpool are in great form at the moment. We've got the best player in the world right now. We're scoring 3 goals away from home all the time. Pete, is this away or is this home?
Home.
Home. Well, let's start scoring 4 or 5 at home and give those Anfield.
You just threw me off
faithful
there.
something.
It's like, is it home? It's like,
Is
I'm
it
pretty sure-
home?
yeah, it's home.
Well, hopefully they give him something to sing about, right?
Yeah, I know. Jesus, yeah. But like I said, let's
Anyway.
just go on to because, again, we just need to keep that momentum going. And I guess, clean sheet would be exceptional, Georgie, especially for Konate.
Exceptional. Well, okay, guys, it's been the training ground here, how to beat Brighton. Hopefully Liverpool do the business at Anfield. And yeah, we'll see you next week for another training ground sometime soon.